friends. Today we are going to be doing something I don't do a lot, and that is reading some YA books. I've really been working over the past year or so to stop buying them because I don't tend to really love them, but still there are some that have slipped through the cracks, ended up on my TBR, or have been here for quite some time that I would really like to get to. So in today's video, we have a selection of 3 YA books that we are going to read together. And let's jump into them. This is the book that started it all for the theming of this video, because if you guys watched my Roll for Reads video, I did pull this book, which is You'd Be Home Now by Kathleen Glasgow, and I have read one book by her before, Girl in Pieces is I believe what it is called. Yes, and I remember liking that when I read that, but I think I was in my early 20s when I read it, so in comparison to being in my early 30s, who knows where we're gonna fall. But this is the book that we are going to be, one of the books we're going to be reading. This one says, "It's finally peaceful now that my wild and troubled brother is gone, and I feel guilty about loving this peace. For all of Emery's life, she has been told who she is. Everything has turned on its head. Everything has turned on its head, though, when she and her brother Joey were in a car accident that killed Candy Montclair. The car accident was revealed just how bad Joey's drug habit was. 4 months later, Emmy's junior year is starting and Joey is home from rehab, and the entire town is still reeling from the accident. Everyone is telling Emmy who she is, but so much has changed. How can she be the same person? Was she ever that person at all? Emmy has always thought that people live one story, but she's beginning to see that people are more than they appear to be. People like her brother who might not be cured, like the popular guy who lives next door, most of all, like the many ghosty addicts who haunt the edges of town. Now it might just be time to decide for herself who she is." Then we have got Something Like Gravity by Amber Smith. I have read The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith and really enjoyed that book, so I'm hoping that I do like this one. This says, Chris and Maya are off to a great start. A near-fatal car accident first brings them together, and the next encounter doesn't fare much better. Chris's good intentions backfire. Maya's temper gets the best of her. But they're neighbors, at least for the summer, and despite their best efforts, they just can't seem to stay away from one another. They also have their own problems. Chris has come out as transgender, but he's still processing a frightening assault he survived the year before. Maya is grieving the loss of her older sister and trying to find a place in the world without her. Falling in love is the last thing on either of their minds, but would it be so bad if it happened anyway? And then a totally switch of gears, the book I'm actually most excited for, I believe this is the Fairy Loot edition, yes. I have the Fairy Loot edition of Poster Girl by Rebecca Roth. I think she wrote something famous, and I know I'm gonna Divergent maybe. I never read it, but I picked this up after this booktuber Beth, I don't remember her last name, especially with an M, read it, and then recently Becca recently read this book and really enjoyed it. I've heard really nothing but great things about it. This is like really cool. They get hardcover with some printing on it. Got some interesting end papers that's like the interior of an eyeball, and yeah, we are going to read the description now. This is a dystopian book. What's right is right. Sonia Cantor knows this slogan. She lived it for most of her life. For decades, everyone in the Seattle-Portland megalopolis lived under it, as well as a constant surveillance that tracked every word and every action, rewarding or punishing by rigid moral code set forth by the delegation. Then there was a revolution. The delegation fell. Its most valuable members were locked in the Aperture, a prison on the outskirts of the city, and everyone else, now free from the Insight's monitoring, went on with their lives. Sonia, former poster girl for the delegation, has been imprisoned for 10 years. When an old enemy comes to her with a deal, find a missing girl who was stolen from her parents by the old regime and earn her freedom. The path Sonia takes to find the child will lead her through an unfamiliar, crooked post-delegation world where she finds herself digging deeper into the past and her family's darker secrets than she ever wanted to. So I'm excited to see where this takes us. Definitely these two are more like darker, sad type of YA stories, and then this is like not like that dystopian is fun, but it's more, I actually don't know if it's going to be lighthearted. Maybe they're all gonna be sad. I don't know, let's go see. I do just want y'all to know that this is where we are starting with this video. I am gonna be reading this book first because I cannot find the audio for it, and I needed to pick my next physical read, and it is going to be Poster Girl. Who knows, I might finish something else before I finish Poster Girl, but I will let you guys know when I have an update. I have a game night tonight, so I'm not going to be really reading anything physically today, so it won't be today, but whenever I do get to this, you'll be the first to know. Alrighty, friends, we are about halfway through Poster Girl by Veronica Roth, and I am liking this, but I am not loving it. I feel like it's taking me a bit to be into it. I feel like a lot of this book has been a bit what's going on, but basically in this book we have got our main character. Her name is Sonia. There's a lot of characters whose names are pretty similar, but basically years ago, so this thing happened called the delegation, and during the delegation people got these things called insights inserted into their eye. They were really tiny when they were inserted as babies, and they kind of grew with the brain, and it's basically like a white circle around your iris that like glows. And so whatever, and this is basically, think like Cookie from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, how he would like put the thing down on his glasses and he could see everything. That's kind of like the vibes that I'm getting, where basically if they were trying to put together a table, the instructions would just be in their view, but simultaneously the government could spy on them. There was all these rules and regulations, like you had to get proper documentation to have more than one child, or your child was taken away from you. All of these crazy things, and in this point of the book, the delegation has fallen, and now Sonia and all of these people who were a part of the delegation live in this area called the Aperture. Sonia was the poster girl on the poster to like a bunch of propaganda posters. She was the face of them, so basically everybody hates her. The outside world is going through this process of releasing kids from the Aperture who were put in there, who were a part of the delegation, basically not of their own choice, more so because they were born into it. So they're kind of releasing these children slowly. And also, not everybody who was part of the delegation is in there, but the people who like believed in it. Think like Handmaid's Tale, like the commanders, the aunts, the people who were like well indoctrinated into it, whereas you have like Rita and the Marthas and stuff who left on their own accord because they realized this place was crazy. They are all free to live their own lives. So they're slowly going through releasing these children, or these people who are under the age of 18. Sonia's kind of on the cusp. She was 17 when the delegation fell. She came from a very prestigious family who all died, and she was the only one left, so they don't really know what to do with her. And so when she is approached by this guy Alexander to go on this mission to essentially find this lost child, during the delegation people were only allowed to have one child. If they had a second child, that child was taken away from the family and put up for adoption. But the Ward family had a daughter named Grace that they were able to keep hidden from the delegation itself for 3 or 4 years by the time that they realized what was going on and took this daughter Grace from them. There are no records of Grace, unlike most of the children who were adopted out. They've been able to find them and rehome them with their, like, not rehome them, but like reunite them with their birth parents. They can't find this child because there is no documentation. So Alexander has sent Sonia on this mission to find Grace in order to regain her freedom. She thinks that this is kind of like a pipe dream and never going to happen, but nonetheless she can see some of the outside world while she's out there, because typically they're not allowed to leave their Aperture, but with this special permission she is able to leave and come back at the end of the day. So that's kind of where I'm at. She is working with this lady Emily Knox, who thinks she might have some information. Another thing about the insights, you would get this stuff called desk coin, and with desk coin, depending on like how good you were at school, even the name your parents gave you, your behavior XYZ, you would get these coins to use as currency, and it basically showed how well you behaved. And so Sonia was a very average student, average basically all around, so she made it her mission to know and follow all the rules. So she's having a really hard time not being in the delegation and not coming from this powerful family anymore. So that's kind of where we are at right now. The chapters are very long, and that's very much so pissing me off, and it's a very slow read for somebody who usually reads as hee hee ha ha romance and thrillers. I feel as though this book has taken me 8.5 years to read, but nonetheless we are going to continue onward. Y'all, the light is so bright, it's jump scare, but this is a late night update from my office because honestly I am going out of town in the morning, and I won't be back. Today is Wednesday. I won't be back until Sunday, and I fear I will forget to update you guys. If I don't update you, rate meow. So this book was a very slow read for me. As somebody who reads a lot of romance and thrillers, reading a book that's like, not necessarily this is like science-y, but like, I don't know, more fantastical science-y things happening. Let me see what the tags are on Goodreads for this bad boy, other than dystopian. It looks like I have something red in between my eyes, but it's actually pissing me off. My profile, maybe? Can we see my red book? So let's go to her and see what kind of tags this bad boy has. Dystopian, science fiction, fiction. Okay, so I'm saying sciencey, I'm not sounding like a lunatic. If it's the second tag after dystopia is sci-fi. So I think due to that, my little pea brain did take some longer time to like understand it, but I actually really liked this book and I ended up giving it 4 stars. As somebody who doesn't love a ton of world building, this book only being like 280 pages made it so that the world building was there. You totally felt like you were in a different world and understood the dynamics of it, but at the same time you didn't feel like there was a ton to learn. So in this back half of the book, we really follow Sonia as she is really trying to figure out what happened to this girl, Grace. And she is in cahoots with Emily, as I explained before. And she keeps getting herself put into these more dangerous and dangerous positions. And we know that she has some sort of reason for being so adamant on helping find Grace, but you don't find out for quite some time what that reason is. And honestly, it was shocking. A lot of the things that happened in the second half of the book were shocking, and I personally did not see coming. A lot of the reviews, this doesn't have the greatest review on Goodreads. It has a 3.64, and from the reviews that I read, it's seeming as though people didn't go into this with the mindset of it being YA, but I did. It does tag adult before young adult, but I think that's because the characters in this are technically adults, but I feel like because of the regime that they grew up in during the delegation, they didn't really get a chance to be adults, so everybody acts quite young. And I've seen a lot of the reviews that people are like, if I would have went into this with the expectation that it was YA, I don't think I would be as disappointed, but I went into it with the expectation of it being an adult book and it felt YA. And I could see that maybe being an issue, not particularly for me, but we get to see Sonia really come face to face with the delegation and how horrible it was. She is very much brainwashed, having grown up in this system and not really knowing any different. Seeing like things on the outside now and being able to look at things with a different perspective and see how fucked up things were was really refreshing. She was a character who experienced a lot of character growth, and something that she did that I feel like people in general have a hard time doing is she was able to like think about things and allow herself to have a change of heart about how things are. And again, I think that's something that a lot of people in real life have a hard time doing, and like especially people in books. So getting to see that happen in the second half of this was really, really good. I had a fun time with it. This is the author of Divergent, I believe. Yeah, that's what like she's most known for, but I've never read that. Let me know if you guys think that I should read it after like enjoying this. But yeah, getting to see like looking at these pictures and like seeing now like the eyeball, and you can see there's kind of like an outer ring. That's what the inside would look like, and what's right is right with what was on the poster that Sonia was the poster girl for, the propaganda poster. But overall, I had a really good time with this. I don't know which book I'm gonna read next, obviously, because I am going out of town and I'm craving a romance right now. I have not read, I don't feel, watch, I'm gonna look at my recently read and be like, no, I've read a million romances recently. Besides like short stories, I'm not counting the short stories, but I read this. Prior to that, I read like a like 600-page historical thriller. Prior to that, I read like a 400-page fiction book. Technically, The Confidence of Wildflowers was romance, but it sucked. Then I read thriller before that, fantasy before that. So it has been like a couple of weeks almost since I've read just like a good straight up romance. So I'm taking a little break from this video, but 4 stars, we're off to a good start. It is 7 p.m. and I have no intention, and what the fuck was that? I have no intention in starting this book today, but I did want to let you know that I will be listening to it probably in its entirety tomorrow. I, in my real life, was out of town last week, and I had a friend in town the week prior, so I feel like I've had kind of like a lot of days off. So I feel like this week is really heavy on the work. So tomorrow I'm gonna get ready in the morning to film some other shit, but we are gonna listen to probably both books. I don't really understand how this book seems much longer than this book, but this audiobook is, I think, 12 hours and this one's 9 hours, but I listen to audio at 3 times speed, so I'm hoping I'm able to get through both of them, but we shall see where we end up. But that is the plan. The classic. My husband is sleeping in our room. He's taking a nap. But I'm about halfway through You'd Be Home Now by Kathleen Glasgow, and I am so far really enjoying this. It is feeling like a 4-star. In this book, we've got our main character, Emery, or Emmy, and she was a passenger in a car accident. In the car was her, this girl that she was briefly on like the dance team with named Candy, her brother, and her brother's friend. Her brother's friend was driving, but her brother and his friend were both high at the time the car crashed and Candy died. Emery really injured her knee and has been like dealing with like going through physical therapy and like having surgery and all of these things. Her brother Joey ended up in rehab, and the guy who was driving the car lost his eye and is in juvie for the death of Candy. And so we're kind of going through this story. She's basically lost all of her friends. She's been essentially, she can't do the dance team anymore. Even if she could, they kicked her off because of who her brother is. And it's just this really deep and sad story of like, she has been covering for her brother and his substance abuse disorder for like the last school year. However, she was naive and thought that he was just smoking pot, but it turned out he was more so doing things like heroin. So now he is back from rehab, and their family is very, very, very wealthy, and her mom has made all of these rules in order to allow Joey to live in the house. And it's like he can't speak to any of his old friends, which is fair. He has to have a job, he has to do this, he has to do that. The doors were removed from his room, like two extreme rules, and essentially if he breaks one of these rules, he's kicked out of the house. So Emery can already kind of see the light and like the lightness that her brother had when he arrived home, kind of leaving now that he's home and under all these rules and doing all these things. And Emery is being charged with basically being his babysitter. He had to get a part-time job to keep him busy, but she has to go sit there while he works all day. And it's just like all of these things. And now we're moving into this point where her family's really rich and they own this land and these like abandoned buildings, and the town wants her to sell them because they are decrepit, and she's going back and forth whether she's going to sell them to developers or a nonprofit wants to buy the land for $1 and make like facilities for people dealing with substance abuse. And Joey is really like, yeah, Mom, you should do that. Like, that would be really good. Like, the one that I go to is already so overflowing. Like, it would be really nice if there could be a place. But she's like, why would I sell it for $1? Being basically like a snotty rich bitch, not wanting to help anybody because it's not going to pad her wallet more than it already is. So they're dealing with what to do with this property, as well as both Emery and Joey are kind of being bullied in school about Candy dying, which, yes, it's very devastating that she died, but neither of them were driving the car. And yeah, so it's been a very sad story, and it's just I keep just picturing her brother Joey as Joey from the Binding series, because he's also a drug addict in that book. But there's also this storyline I almost forgot between this guy Gage. He is the rich, rich if he's living next door to them. He's the most popular boy in school, and his house is directly next door to Emery and Joey's house, and he and Emery kind of sneak out at night to her pool house, and they fool around and they kiss or whatever, but he doesn't want anybody to know because he can't have a girlfriend because he's focusing on sports and his grades and all of these things. And this point that we're at now, they're like through the window of each other, like taking saucy photos, and I just already know he's going to be sending them around. Like, he seems like a slimy little snake, and Emery keeps saying she like hates that she feels like she has to be a secret, blah blah blah. Like, the writing is right on the wall, but I guess teenagers. So far I am having a, not like a good time because it's not like a fun story, but I'm not bored. I'm enjoying listening to it, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Oh, is this a multi-parter? I just flipped open and it says 2. I don't remember there being like parts, but apparently there is a second part. Anyhow, so I'm gonna finish this tomorrow. It's like 7:30. I'm kind of over everything today. I've been kind of in a raging bitch type of mood for the whole day. So I'm gonna call it quits. I'm gonna go take allergy medicine because my nose is so fucking itchy, and that's gonna be that. Alrighty friends, we have finished You'd Be Home Now by Miss Kathleen Glasgow, and I did end up giving this book 4 stars. I see on the back she has like these 2 other books. I have read Girl in Pieces, and I actually would be interested in buying How to Make Friends in the Dark. I don't know if those are her only 3 books, but yes, then she has like 1 co-written book. Anywho, this was so sad, such a hard and heavy read, and obviously this book deals deeply with the topic of addiction. So in the second half of the book, we really see her brother deal with the realities of living with substance abuse disorder and being addicted to these different substances, and how that affects his siblings, his parents, his friends, himself, just getting to see all these dynamics. And as somebody who comes from a family that has a lot of substance abuse issues in it, it just like, yeah, like that's the reality of it. Like the way that it is described in here just felt so true to the actual experience, at least in my experience of dealing with a lot of these topics. And it was heartbreaking. There was this whole kind of like messaging about our main girl, Emmy, and about how her sister's the pretty one, her brother's the troubled one, so she has to be the perfect one, and how she feels like it breaks her parents' hearts more when she does something wrong because she's just expected to do everything right, and how that's really heavy on her. And that's something I can deeply relate to as the person who's always felt like they can't mess things up or it's going to negatively impact everybody. So I really enjoyed this story and gave it 4 stars. Honestly, like I don't really have, it just didn't feel like a 5-star. There was also an entire author's note by the author, obviously it's an author's note, talking about like her experience being in recovery because she is an addict. And that's another thing that they talk about is like her brother, like they just want to pretend like this didn't happen, but like when you are an addict, you are always an addict, even if you have not relapsed in however many years, you will always be an addict. That's part of who you are. And how like his family thought that there was something just so wrong with him, and how he was such a bad person because of this thing, rather than treating like his mental health and treating him to handle, they didn't give him the tools to handle this new reality that he lived in. And I had it's not like, oh, that was a great read, because it was like very sad, but you guys get what I mean. Next up, we are going to be popping into Something Like Gravity by Amber Smith. I have read 1 other book by this biatch. I thought that it was black, but maybe not. The Way I Used to Be. That's the one that I've read by this author, and so that has a sequel, The Way I Am Now. I own that, have not read it yet, but it has to be great. I feel like all of her spines look exactly the same. Like this. Identical burned. No. I don't know where it is. or maybe that one's blue or black. Anywho, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to be reading this. It does not have good reviews. It has like a 3.5, which is like fine, but I hope that I like it. It's about Chris and Maya and a car accident. I don't really know anything about it, but I'm gonna get into it. The audio for this, even though this book is way longer than the one we just read, is only 9 hours. It is currently 12:34, 1, 2, 3, 4. I am making dinner around 5, and we have game night at 7:30. Other than that, I'm just chilling today. So, well, I'm working, but I should be able to listen to, I'm hoping, all of this, because I would like for this video to go up this weekend. So here's hoping we can get through something like Gravity and that it's not too terrible, because I don't want to hate it. Nobody's trying to read books I think they're gonna hate. Let's go. Okay guys, my hair is so gross. I'm due to get it done. I get my hair done like once every 3 months because my hair grows actually like fairly slow. Like that's 3 months of growth. But we are a little over halfway through something like Gravity by Amber Smith, and this book is just okay. It is feeling like a 3-star maximum. I am quite bored if I'm being honest with you, but in this book we have got Maya and we have got Chris. They have these 2 separate storylines where things have happened. Maya's older sister died, and I'm getting kind of like the vibes that Maya is maybe not so good of a kid, like his bad reputation, that's the vibes. And her sister had some sort of heart condition and basically dropped dead. And her family's having a really hard time dealing with this. Prior to her even dying though, her parents got divorced and then like remodeled the home to sell it, and then the house didn't sell and they can't afford to move out. / they don't really know how to function without being around each other. So now it's this really dysfunctional, toxic situation where Maya is living in this house with her divorced parents who basically treat her like the middleman. If you can think of that scene in Harry Potter #4 when Ron's giving the message to Hermione for Hermione to tell Harry, and Harry gives a message to Hermione for Hermione to tell Ron. She's like, I'm not an owl. That's the vibes it's giving. And then we have Chris. Chris is trans and he recently came out to his family, and his dad has taken it in stride and has really like been there for him, whereas his mom like doesn't want to speak to him, and it is all this drama. They've started homeschooling him and not letting him leave the house and all of these things, and he's kind of over it. So he and his family set up for him to go live with his aunt in this small town, which is the town Maya lives in, for however long until I don't really know what the like length of time they're having him live there. So he pretty soon meets Maya and they start to develop this friendship. They are now starting to like develop feelings for each other. He has not told Maya that he is trans. Maya has found out on her own accord. That does not change her feelings on the situation, but she doesn't want to tell him. He also thinks that she's like really into photography, but really she's kind of just trying to, she misses her sister, and she and her sister did not have a good relationship. Her sister was constantly doing drugs and saying that she and Maya were having special sister time, when really she was just trying to have Maya cover for her being high. And they had a very difficult relationship, but she misses her sister, and she feels like her sister hated her when she died. So her sister was big into photography, so she's trying to go to all these places her sister photographed and retake the pictures to feel what her sister felt. And now she thinks that she's put this false persona into Chris's head about her, that she's this artsy girl and into photography and all these things, when really she isn't. But another thing is she keeps saying things along the lines of, he doesn't know everything about me like the town does, but I don't really know what more there is about her other than just her sister dying. I'm sure we'll find out, but so far it's like fine. I'm like, it's one of those books where I'm gonna finish it and never think about it again. You know what I mean? Like last night I went to bed still thinking about this book. This one, it's already out of my head and I'm not even finished with it yet. So that's kind of the vibes we are getting from something like Gravity, but I'm gonna go finish it up. I think I'm like a little bit more than halfway because I forgot to come talk to you guys. I'm at 65%. It says I have 3 hours and 11 minutes left, which at 3 times speed is about an hour. So I'm gonna go finish her up and then I will talk to you. And I think definitively my favorite book is You'd Be Home Now, then Poster Girl, and then something like Gravity. But one thing about me is I keep books in my collection as long as they're a 3-star or higher, and I'm not gonna be unhauling any of them, which is rare for me with YA. So I count that as a win. Guys, I just brushed my hair because it was really bothering me. It is so greasy and hideous. I can't take it right now. But I finished something like Gravity earlier today, and I did end up giving this book 3 stars. Nothing really further to tell you guys about it. It was just a 3. The ending was different than I anticipated it being. So there's that like kind of solidified. I was kind of dipping into maybe it being a 2, but because the ending was not something I could have predicted, I did really like that. So with that being said, that is everything for today's YA reading vlog. Thank you guys all so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.